How is it possible that the most legendary team of Formula One ended up in a total shock by a single accident? And what reveals this about the relationship between Lewis Hamilton and Ferrari? The Netherlands Grand Prix began with an air of hope for Ferrari, especially after a pair of weekends where the team had been completely lost. There was an imperative need to reunite with performance, and although Friday was chaotic, Saturday seemed to mark a turning point. Lewis Hamilton, who had been struggling to find a real synergy with the SF25 since his arrival in Maranello, achieved what for many seemed unlikely: classify in 7th position after 2 practices sessions where the car had been indomitable. During Friday's free ones, Hamilton suffered 2 violent trumps. In both cases, the car lost control suddenly, without a progressive grip loss that would allow it to anticipate. It was as if the SF25 decided on its own when to disobey. This not only worried the pilot, but sowed doubts within the technical team about the stability of the car in changing conditions. Fred Vasseur, the team leader, said it bluntly: "It had been the worst Friday in 3 years." This statement was not an exaggeration. The car was not only unpredictable on track, the data also offered clear answers. Ferrari was literally blind. But on Saturday he brought a ray of light. Despite doubts and lack of accumulated trust, Hamilton managed to put the car in P7. This result was received with relief in the red paddock. For the first time since its signing, it seemed that there was a base on which to build something solid. More importantly, Hamilton began to feel minimally comfortable with the car. This was crucial because to that point the SF25 seemed to have its own personality that rejected the British driving style. That 7th position was not just a figure in the table. It was a statement that there was still potential to explode. Sunday, however, the atmosphere changed. From the first laps, the Holland GP was already shown as a career where strategic decisions would be as important as track performance. It began to rain lightly, the type of treacherous drizzle that does not completely justify the rain tires, but it does put in check any calculation error. Hamilton, with his vast experience, noticed it immediately. He knew it was the ideal time for an undercut, a tactical play that could allow him to overcome George Russell, his former partner in Mercedes, and other direct rivals. He asked for the radio stop. It was direct and clear: "I was ready to attack." But the answer he received from the wall was warm, vague: "We are in it." That seemingly harmless phrase marked the beginning of the strategic collapse. Instead of calling him to boxes, Ferrari chose to give priority to Charles Leclerc, executing the stop with him in a decision that, although apparently logic for his track position, completely ignored the momentum that Hamilton had built. The choice to leave Hamilton on track while the rain increased slowly was not only wrong from the tactical point of view, it was a betrayal of his intuition, a denial of the pilot's experience. At that moment, the link between pilot and team showed its fragility. There was no reaction, there was no flexibility. Only operational rigidity and an attachment to a hierarchy that no longer seemed to respond to performance, but to an internal narrative where Leclerc remained the tacit priority, even if they did not say it openly. All this created the perfect context for what would come minutes later. Hamilton, even pushing to the limit to operate a strategy that had already been sabotaged by omission, found the disaster. Entering curve 3 played the line painted in the Perrault. A moment was enough. The grip evaporated. The rear of the car was lacking with a violence that made it clear that there was no room for maneuver. There was no possibility of correction. The car turned sharply and the impact against the barriers was inevitable. That blow was not just the end of his career in Zandvoort. It was the culmination of a sequence of errors, bad decisions, uncomfortable silences, and lack of leadership from the wall. And although the accident was from Lewis, the responsibility was collective. Ferrari not only lost a car that day, he lost credibility in front of his new leader, and perhaps he lost something more important: the control of his own project. Lewis Hamilton's accident in Curve 3 of Zandvoort, more than a mere career incident, is a mirror that crudely reflects the structural cracks of a project that was born with a titanic promise but, in fact, still does not find internal cohesion. The exact moment of the accident was a lethal combination of factors: a car with unpredictable behavior, a track in transition by rain, and strategic management that touched the negligent. Upon entering Curve 3, Hamilton continued to push as if he were executing a strategy that no longer existed. His intention was clear: staying in pace, winning vital seconds, and pressing so that Ferrari reconsider the stop. But when passing through the painted line, at a Perrault angle that requires millimeter precision, the SF25 betrayed it. The rear was released instantaneously, without prior notice or correction margin. The car turned and, in a matter of seconds, impacted violently against the barriers. But the most disturbing was not the accident itself. It was the posterior reaction. Hamilton did not yell, he did not complain, he did not make any emotional discharge on the radio. There was only silence. A silence that said more than 1,000 words. In that communicative void there was a deep frustration, a mixture of helplessness, confusion, and, above all, betrayal. It was the silence of a pilot who knew that he had done everything right, that he had read the track, anticipated the conditions, requested the right strategy, and that, even so, he was ignored. When Hamilton finally spoke after getting out of the car, he did it with a serenity that contrasted with the intensity of the moment. He said the car was without warning, and that he could not do anything. But the most significant was how he framed the weekend in general. Despite the accident, he said that it had been a solid weekend and that he felt that he had made progress both at a technical and mental level. This phrase should not go unnoticed. It reflects a radical change in Hamilton's mentality compared to the frustrated pilot who, before the summer break, is self-defined as useless after qualifying 12th in Hungary. This change in tone is important because it shows that, despite chaos, Hamilton feels more aligned with himself. He is finding rhythm, understanding of the car, and a way of piloting that returns sensations that he did not experience for years. However, this personal evolution brutally contrasts with the lack of institutional evolution within Ferrari. The team did not live up to its most critical moment on the weekend. And that is the truly alarming. Fred Vasseur, in his attempt to cushion the coup, said that Hamilton had been to the rhythm of Leclerc throughout the weekend and that it was not a trusted error, but a trap of the weather conditions. He also hinted that they would investigate if there was any technical anomaly in the car. But these statements, although diplomatic, suggest a disturbing pattern. Ferrari continues to justify their strategic failures under the excuse of external factors, avoiding facing internal decisions that are really conditioning their performance. The accident also uncovers a latent tension between the theory and practice of the Hamilton-Ferrari project. In theory, Ferrari signed Lewis not only for his 7 titles, but for his ability to lead projects, provide experience, and transform teams. In practice, this leadership has been diminished by an internal structure that continues to prioritize pre-established hierarchies and that seems more concerned with protecting political equilibriums than to execute efficient decisions in real time. And the most dangerous thing about this pattern is that confidence undermines, not only of the pilot towards the team, but of the team towards himself. If a heptacampion of the world, with all its experience and sensitivity to read the race, is not heard when it launches a strategic alert, who can be? What type of operational culture is rooted in Ferrari so that an application as basic as an undercut in light rain conditions is ignored? Therefore, the accident is not an isolated event. It is a symptom. A symptom of a team that has not yet learned to make quick decisions under pressure. Of a team that, despite the individual talent of its pilots and the investment in infrastructure, continues to make the same execution errors that have pursued it for more than a decade. The true meaning of the Hamilton accident in Zandvoort is not in the barriers or in the destroyed car. It is in what was broken internally: Ferrari's tactical credibility, Hamilton's authority as a track leader, and the narrative that 2025 would be the year of redemption for Italian team. All this was suspended in the air, just at the time the SF25 lost grip and stamped against the wall. Lewis Hamilton's accident in Zandvoort not only truncated a race that promised valuable points. He left an open scar in the most ambitious project Ferrari has started in the last decade. The alliance with the most laureate pilot in history had to mark a before and after. On the other hand, 3 major awards after its red debut, the question that resonates in Maranello's halls and throughout the paddock is as uncomfortable as it is inevitable. Is the Hamilton-Ferrari project breaking? In this context, what is coming is even more important than what has already happened. The next races will not only serve to add points or adjust setups. They will be a fire test for the internal confidence of the project. Fred Vasseur must show that he knows how to react. The technical team must abandon the operational rigidity that led them to the error in Holland. And above all, they must reconfigure internal power dynamics so that Hamilton feels truly supported. Because if something has demonstrated the recent story of Ferrari is that it is not enough to have talent at cockpit. If the organization is not structured to execute under pressure, if there is no bidirectional confidence, if the decisions are made by internal diplomacy instead of sports logic, then any project is intended to implode, however promising it may seem. The future of the Hamilton-Ferrari project hangs from a thread. The illusion is still alive, but patience has limits. And every decision that is made from now on, each stop in boxes, each range strategy, each radio message will be another brick in the construction of a lasting relationship, or in its definitive ruin. And now it's your turn. Do you think Ferrari can still amend this path before it is too late? Or are we seeing, in real time, the beginning of the end of an experiment that seemed promising but already gives signs of internal fracture? Leave me your opinion in the comments.